Hey guys, I'm super excited to introduce you to Natasha Link. Natasha and I have known each other via social for quite a while. We had a really great sidebar conversation about something that I posted recently, and it just made me realize she is so cool that I needed to bring her to the podcast so that you guys could meet her. She is a creative content developer. She is, I'm just going to read from her website, but she's really an interesting person. I'm creative, passionate, and driven to succeed. I am genuine, straightforward, and enthusiastic. I love to feel alive and believe that life is meant to be lived to the fullest. Writing brings so much joy to my life that I decided to do it full time. And, basically, she says, hey, at the end of the day, she knows your hands are full and you need a copywriter who can work directly with your sales team and/or graphic designers to manage projects. And she loves to handle that. Thing I loved about her headline within her website is writing has been my passion since I first held a pencil in my hand, and I'd love to use that passion to help your business. That is what I love about her. Her enthusiasm and excitement for what she does and why she does it is one of the things that originally attracted me to follow her on Twitter and on Instagram, just to see all the great work that she's doing. She's a creative, passionate person, and that's just a rippler in my opinion. So I'm super excited for you guys to meet Natasha Link. So let's jump in. Hey guys, I'm super excited to have Natasha Link with us today. Natasha, welcome to the Ripple Effect Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited about this. I think right before we came on air, you mentioned something that really stood out, which is ultimately what stood out when we first started talking was witty one-liners. That's your superpower, I think, right?
It's apparently my thing.
So how exactly did that come about? Have you always been that way, or is it just like something about being online that you're able to, come up with these creative tweets and posts?
Yeah, I think it's more it just happened. I only joined Twitter like not even 3 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Um and just started I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. And just started posting stuff and whatever random thoughts came into my head, and apparently that's just my thing and it's worked out for me.
Well, based on how many people you have following you and how many people really, sort of jive with what you post out there, I mean, I think it's been successful.
Yeah, it's been wild. It's been quite a ride.
Absolutely. Well, you and I think probably have, at least known each other 2 of those years that you've been on Twitter and kind of exchanged some back and forths over that period of time. I've really enjoyed reading your tweets and sort of getting to know you from that perspective. This is the first time we've actually gotten on a video call to actually see one another, but I'm super pumped to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I always like to do, just kind of to jump off into the interview, is I'm really fascinated with like origin stories, or kind of I know the work that you do, and we'll get into that. But I mean, kind of maybe give my audience a sense of kind of who you are and kind of how you became down this path from a career perspective, and kind of how you became the awesome Natasha Link that you are.
Well, let's see. I've always wanted to be a writer. That was like my secret dream my whole life. And then for some reason, I just kind of gave up on it along the way, I guess, for a while. In college, I studied psychology. I had planned on becoming a psychiatrist at some
Oh
point.
wow,
After I graduated, I got pregnant. So my life took a different
a little bit
turn.
of a turn. Yep.
Yeah. So no grad school for me. And then I ended up just doing a whole bunch of different stuff. I worked with children for a while, like a learning center with like reading, helping them learn, like
Yep.
children with like autism, ADHD, learning disorders, that kind of thing. And then so from there, I ended up becoming a para at a school, and I worked there for a few years with the same, also with like behavioral disorder kids and stuff
Yeah.
too. So that was a great job, and I loved doing that. And then I ended up working as a recruiter, and and then an office manager for a home health care company for,
Yeah.
for a while, and then I ended up working for the county as a child support officer. So it's just kind of been a whole variety of things. And then I was like, I'm supposed to be writing. I want to be writing. That's what I
Yeah.
want to do. So I just started one day, and I just started a blog. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants this whole time,
Yeah.
basically. And then I came up with Elephant Journal. I found them, and I had been reading some of their stuff over the years, and I just was like, why don't I just submit something and see what happens? And they loved it, and they promoted it to their magazine section. And so
Oh,
I did a
awesome.
bunch of stuff for them for a while. And then someone was like, if you're going to be a writer, you really need to be on Twitter. And I was like, okay, I don't know what it is. And then I got addicted.
Yeah, well, that's generally how it works. Well, tell my audience what Elephant Journal is. Just give us a little background and perspective there.
So Elephant Journal is an online magazine that is more like nonfiction, like stories that you tell about your life or yourself, or things that would be of benefit for other people. So I've written about an abusive relationship I was in once. I've written about, um, gosh, just random stuff from my life, and things that I think would be helpful
Yeah.
for people to know and think about and would connect to.
So is that kind of what, kind of spurned that bug to make that kind of career shift, is like, hey, I can do this and this is something I'm
Yeah.
passionate about?
Yes, it was very validating. And when the pandemic hit and a lot of things changed for a
Yeah.
lot of people. And I actually just got my first copywriting client that week. And I was just like, you know what, this is what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to work for this office anymore and deal with the drama and the cattiness and
Yeah. You
like
could
I
write
just,
about it. It's
it's not for me.
Yeah, I'd
This
rather just
soul
write and
sucking atmosphere isn't for me.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot of people are like that way. So what do you think, kind of, aside from, the frustration and like, hey, I want out of here, what was it that gave you the courage to, like, take that leap into entrepreneurship?
A few things that really, the support of family and friends.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law, she's an entrepreneur. She does marketing. She was like, I'll just do your website for you. And I was like, okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Sweet.
She's
That's a
like,
great
yeah,
ripple
just give
right
it a
there. I mean,
shot.
that's a perfect
So
ripple. Yeah.
that was helpful.
Yeah.
And my husband was like, okay, you've got 3 months. You've got 3 months to prove that you can make an income this way, or you're going to have to go get a different job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So
That's
still
awesome.
trucking.
So let me ask you, I mean, obviously still sort of in that startup mode,
Right.
and 2 years and been able, and, throughout the pandemic, right? To be able to make it successful during the pandemic is a true credit to you. I mean, you're clearly on the path that you're supposed to, but what do you think, if you had to, put a pin in one or two ideas that really sort of, gave you kind of affirmation that, hey, I was on the right path? Was there any particular client or situation that kind of came up and were like, yep, this is just, confirmation that I should be doing this?
Honestly, I think it's everything that happens to come up.
Yeah.
Like I said, that very first copywriting client I got was right when I was in the middle of like very unhappy where I was, and
Yeah.
was like, and it was somebody that just read one of my Elephant Journal articles and was like, hey, do you ever do any writing for other people? And I was like, I haven't, but I could. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then right when I first started up my website and was like, all right, I'm going to try this, somebody I'd known or been connected to, I'd never actually met her, for years and years. I actually randomly added her on Facebook because we had the same name, and like, so random, like, because my maiden name was Carter and her name was Natasha Carter. And I was just
Okay.
like, oh, I'm gonna add her on Facebook. And we've been like connected this whole time. And she reached out to me right away and was like, hey, I have a gig for you. And it was like instantly 25 hours a week,
Wow.
$45 an hour to do a bunch of like revamping all their product sell sheets for a company called Auto Engineering. And I did that for months.
Yeah.
And so that was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, this
Yeah.
is working out. And then I got contacted about Twitter management and helping somebody grow their account. And I was just like, all right, I'll try it. And like, and so now I have like 7 clients that I do that
Wow.
for daily. And then I'm I'm ghostwriting a book for an attorney.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's just always like something new that I've never tried before. And they're like, hey, you want to try this? And I'm like, sure. And
Yeah.
it keeps working out. So that's why I know I'm on the right path. I mean, I'm writing my own books too, fiction.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm working on trying to get published. And I don't know if you're familiar with like publishing, but it's a grueling process. It's pretty brutal. I've had like
Yes.
7 rejections on my manuscript from agents. I'm at a point where I'm like, should I keep querying or should I just try to self-publish my first book and go
Well,
from there?
you may not know this about me, but I self-published my book. I'm now in the
Mhm.
3rd edition. I would highly recommend, and I almost always tell, especially first-time authors, if you feel like that the industry is telling you no, it's because they have this overwhelming number of submissions that come in, and so the ability to get the right person to pick up the right at the right time to pick up your book is really challenging. And so I certainly would be willing to help you like navigate that water in terms of the nuances going into self-publishing. But it's been a great decision for me. But I also have a really good friend, Kimberly Mckay, and she's kind of a romance. I shouldn't say kind of. She's a romance author, and she has done amazing with her books and what she's done. And she would be a great resource. And she loves to ripple. She's in Oklahoma. She's got this like sort of really very cool fan following that she's been able to create. But much like you, she sort of dove into it and kind of had to figure it out along the way. And then she recognized and realized that the approach that she wanted to take, she wanted to be in that control. And so I don't know if she's necessarily self-publishing at this stage in her career path, but it'd be a great connection for you to just, kind of bounce ideas off of. And she is just a sweetheart. So you would really like her. But I think that's awesome that you're doing it. So like in your spare time, then you're dealing with, you know, your kid and you probably don't have time for anything else, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially now that it's summer and
Yeah.
one of my kids is home a lot of the time, and the other
Yeah.
one still in daycare, just so I can get something done because with
Yeah.
a toddler I wouldn't be able to do a thing. So
How
um
old are they? Are boys, girls, and how old are
both
they?
both girls, one's
Okay.
13 and one's 3. So
Oh, yeah, that age that demands a whole lot of attention.
right. Yeah. So that's why I'm in daycare. The 13-year-old's home, but she's has so many activities that I'm constantly like running her to basketball,
Yeah.
softball, here, there, everywhere, games. It's just like, oh, okay. Like I was gonna work today, but it's not.
Well, so what do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur?
Um, kind of just the flexibility, making my own schedule so that I can do these things.
Yeah.
Like my husband works full time out of the home and he's busy. So oftentimes they'll have softball tournaments all day on a Friday.
Yeah.
So the fact that I can do that and be there for her and just, I mean, it's summer, it's nice out. We want to take the day and go do this and not have to worry about anything. And it's just flexible and make my own hours,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
That's awesome. Well, and the fact that you're kind of in the type of business that allows, or that phrase, the digital nomad, where you can pretty much work from anywhere, right? As
Yeah.
long as you've got your phone or your iPad or your laptop with you, you pretty much could be doing the client work, while while your daughter's practicing or, playing a game or whatever. And that, I think that's one of the big flexibilities in terms of someone that's in that content creation space, is that you can pretty much do it anywhere, anytime.
Right. I mean, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that we could like go to the lake for the weekend and I can bring my computer, and if I have something I need to do, I can get it done
Yep.
and it's fine. Just need to have the time to get away, but
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So what advice would you give someone that's entering that content space? Like what would you suggest they know right off the bat if they were going to go down this chosen career path that you think is important for them to understand?
patience.
Patience. I love that exhale right as you said that. That was perfect. Patience.
I am not a patient person.
Yeah.
Um, I get easily frustrated with um, lack of communication
Yeah.
sometimes. So sometimes clients aren't always great at communicating
Hmm.
or being like quick with communication. Sometimes they take a week or two to get back to you.
Yeah.
Um, and they're just busy. They have a lot going on. That's why they hired you to do this for them.
Yeah.
So, but for me, I'm like,
Let's get
come on.
going.
It
Yeah.
takes 2 seconds to respond to my email, not 2 weeks.
Yep. So be patient. That's good advice. That's good advice for any entrepreneur. I
Yeah.
think most of the time we jump into whatever we're doing or whatever we're focused on because we can see that we can do it better than anybody else and we're just ready to get going, right? So,
Yeah.
just point us in the direction.
Yeah. And if for somebody who's thinking about making the switch, they need to make sure they have a lot saved up, because it's not going to be super lucrative right away. As far as starting a business, there's no overhead costs really.
Right.
So
Right.
that's great.
Yeah.
But it's going to take time to build it.
Yeah. So how did you manage to land, you said you have 7 clients that you're working with to support them on their social strategy. So was that just word of mouth? Did you do any kind of advertising, or how did that evolve?
Occasionally I'll tweet about it. Not very often, because I don't want to hammer people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to be like, hire me. But I have my website at the top of my profile. My bio says what I do. It's mostly just people coming to me, and then being like, so hey, how much do you charge for this, or what does that consist of?
Yeah.
So, and they come and go. Marketing in any form is something that's going to be the first thing cut if there's any budgeting or concerns.
Yeah.
So I'll have a client for a year and then they're like, sorry, like slow season, gonna have
Yeah.
to come back to you or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I've had some that stop for a few months and come back too. So it's hit or miss, but
Well, that says a lot about clients that may have to push pause, but that they end up coming back. I mean, that says a lot. I think the challenge with a lot of freelancers, and I do a lot of coaching with, solopreneurs that are freelancers, is, that they don't get that return business, right? The client leaves, they haven't built enough of a relationship with them. I'm obviously a relationship guy, so I'm really focused on that aspect. And that tells me that you are doing what's necessary to support those clients, not only with the final product, whatever you're producing for them, but at the end of the day they know that they can depend on you to get it done, and you're reliable. And sometimes freelancers have a bad reputation, right, of not always delivering, and that's clearly not the case with you, because that's why they come back. So I think that's a big credit to you for sure.
I think relationship building is the most important thing you can do in any business
Yeah,
or any career, really.
exactly.
I mean, okay, the whole reason why I'm trying to build this big following is because I have books I'm going to sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not going to throw my books out there every day like, hey, buy me. I just want people to like me and then be like, oh, she has a book. I might
Yeah.
want to check that out because I like what she has to say. And
Absolutely.
that's really the best thing anybody can do as far as a marketing strategy. If people like you, they're going to buy what you're selling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I often tell my clients, especially my corporate clients, is, marketing is just the support elements that go into continuing to build that relationship. And, especially for folks that are out there trying to, build their audience for their book or their new product or their service, much of the marketing effort comes into once you've established that credibility, you really want to be able to provide ongoing messaging and value to them, that further supports, oh yeah, that's why I do business with, Natasha, because she's awesome. I like working with her. She always delivers on time. And next thing you see out there, it's like, hey, I want to buy the book to support you, or I have a client potentially that would benefit from what you do. And that introduction makes it, makes them look good, and obviously adds value to you because you didn't have to go out and find them. They're actually evangelizing on your behalf, which is great.
Yeah.
How do you see that? What I guess there's so many questions about the content space in general, but what do you see as organizations that are missing the mark when it relates to their content? What do you see what mistakes do you see them making often? Is it asking too much, trying to push their product and ask for the business far too often in social or on their websites, or what do you see?
I think just from what I see, I think, yeah, they're trying too hard to be salesy.
Yeah.
Um, just, I don't know. I think maybe they don't have good writers.
Well, now
They
they
don't have,
will because they'll know you, right?
they don't have good copy.
Yeah.
Or they're just pushing too much, and that turns people off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when I see people on Twitter promoting their books, like if you're going into threads that have nothing to do with books and you're posting your links, that's going to turn people off. No one's, or you DMing people your book links, people are going to be like,
Yeah.
who are you? What are you doing with this? Like, no one's going to buy it from that. I promise
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That's not the way to go. I know that people just they don't know what to do and they're just trying to, but that's why they should hire me. No.
If you didn't say it, I was gonna say it right there. So there you go. I love that. Well, and to your point, right? A lot of times organizations are really good at whatever they do. And it could also be for a solopreneur. They could be really fantastic about what they do. But I myself, right, even what I do for Ripple, I am probably my own worst enemy when it comes to promoting myself. So I'm not the person that should be writing any of that copy, or really coming up with the right content ideas. And that you're right, having that outside expertise that can say, okay, I understand where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do. Let's figure out the game plan so that it makes sense, right, for the audience that you're trying to attract, because that in essence really is all the marketing is trying to get the attention of people that might potentially want to do business with you in some way, shape, or form. And that's true even if you don't have anything to sell. You're trying to build your brand social, on the social platforms, and people, you're trying to build that audience for whatever maybe down the road you might utilize that audience for. But at the end of the day, it's, you got to build that credibility. And if you're constantly pushing and constantly asking rather than giving, you often find that, that's why people get frustrated with the marketing process in general, because they're doing it wrong, number one, and they don't have somebody guiding and directing them to make the right decisions, and make sure that their content is appropriate for those audiences they're trying to attract.
Right. So for like a website, for instance, the number one thing you need on your website is how you're going to solve that person's problem.
Yeah.
They're there for a reason. What can you do for them?
Hmm.
And oftentimes websites aren't that written that way. They're just like, here's who I am and here's what I'm doing, and nothing about like, here's what I can do for you. Here's how I can fix your problem.
Yeah.
And that's like the number one thing that you need to be. People have a short attention span.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the thing I like about your website, right, is your passion was about writing, and now you're like, hey, let me show you how I take that passion and help make it make sense for you, right, as a potential client of mine. I think that it was simple, it's straightforward, but it's also very direct. You know what you get when you land here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so let me ask you, so I'm sort of notorious for asking some ripple connection questions. Like I'm always fascinated because these answers really give people more insight as to who my guests are. But what's the best piece of advice that you were given as a child that you still use to today?
Be yourself.
Be yourself. Can you elaborate? Tell me about it. Who gave it to you and how do you use it?
So my mom
Hey,
is the
mom.
biggest proponent of like be you, in a world that tries to mold you into something else, a cookie cutter person
Yeah.
of like everyone should be this way, and she's always just been like, no, be you, be you. And I think for a long time that was a struggle because as you grow, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to make friends, you're trying to,
Mhm.
and all along that's a struggle internally because
Sure.
you're not being true to who you are half the
Yeah.
time. And like the more I don't care about any of that and
Yeah.
just be myself, the happier I am, and the more my life reflects that.
I
And
love
so
it.
just being authentic and being genuine, and like people do like that. They
Yeah.
do. And even if it's some people don't, like those aren't your people. I
Yeah.
don't, and I know sometimes I can be a little too direct and I lack a filter, but a lot of people appreciate that.
Yeah.
In a world where people are constantly lying, hiding, and not being their true selves, I think it can be refreshing.
Yeah. And people always figure it out, right? At the end of the day, if you're not being authentic and you're trying to put on airs, almost always people see through that eventually, right? Maybe not immediately, but at the end of the day, if you're not authentic to who you are or what you should be doing, and yet, like you said, I mean, people do it over and over and over again. It's kind of like why there's sort of maybe a little bit of mistrust amongst how people engage and connect, especially on social. Like if you think about like how we started, conversing. It's you never know what people's ulterior motives are there, or who they are, behind the keyboard. And for you, it's always been refreshing. What I love about your tweets is, you always find a way to bring a smile to anybody who's reading your tweets. I mean, I love the wit and the sarcasm and sort of your take on the things that you put out there, which is great. And so I can see people coming and going, okay, is this person, this is somebody I would, want to become friends with, somebody I want to know. And that has to, lend to your brand and ultimately to why people want to work with you.
Yeah, and there was a while there where I was like, should I behave on social media?
Yep.
Should I pretend that I'm no, I don't want to pretend anything. So
Yeah.
I swear sometimes, that's me. That's my personality. I'm not going to pretend to be somebody else. And the people who are offended by that probably aren't the right fit to work
Right.
with me.
Yeah.
Um, I joke around a lot. I'm sarcastic, like you said.
Yeah.
People who don't have a sense of humor,
Yeah.
it's probably not going to work out. So I'd rather work with people who get me and are like, okay, no, I like this. This is
Yeah.
good, because you don't want to work with somebody that's the opposite of that, or
Yeah. No.
that's not enjoyable for anybody.
No, it's not comfortable at all. One of the things that I do in addition to Ripple is I have two software companies I run too. And I was on a big demonstration for our software last week, and a big, huge team, a lot of pomp and circumstance. And I'm on Zoom, just like cracking jokes and being, total smart ass. And they were like, oh my God, this is like so different than anybody else we've talked to. And I'm like, yeah, hopefully in a good way. But, this is me. I mean, like you said, I mean, I have to be, the person that I am. And, what we do is not, it's not rocket science, and it's, we're solving a problem, but at the end of the day, it's kind of a boring problem. And so you got to liven it up in some capacities. And I think the more that you're authentic and the more that people see that, the more value that they get from, or they want to, partake in whatever you're offering, right? They want the value of what you bring to the table. And so I think for sure that's why people are so attracted to what you do and how you do it, because I mean, At first, I thought like you were going to be like maybe a stand-up comedian or something. I think you, I think that should be your second calling. I mean, you're hilarious.
Oh, thanks. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
admittedly more funny in tweets than probably in person.
I'm the same way most of the time. So I can understand that. Let me ask you, so where do you generally find, being in the content business, right? Developing content for other people. I mean, it can be a creatively taxing, business for you, right? So where do you find your inspiration and motivation?
Okay, so as far as like tweeting and social clients, I'll be straight up with you. I don't plan anything ahead of time. I just fly. I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. I'll
Yeah.
be on their account. I look through the tweets from yesterday, the responses, and whatever pops into my head is what I go with.
I like
And
it.
oftentimes it works out. I do a lot of questions just because that gets the most engagement, but I try to do unique and different questions because you see some of them are so repetitive. And so I try to just come up with something that fits for the day
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
whatever. Like I'll see something's trending and I'll be like, oh, that works for this. So, this will be funny. This will be good. And oftentimes my client tweets get way more engagement and traffic than my own.
Yeah.
Um, like I've had several go viral for
Oh,
my
nice.
um. I'm like, I should get a bonus.
You should, absolutely, I agree.
Like one of them had Rob, one of my clients. He's like, this one got like 1 million engagements, and I was just
Oh,
like, yeah, that was
yeah, that's how awesome I am. That's what you're paying me for, Rob,
right.
come on.
Yeah.
Well, what about for you personally? Like, is there anything, because being an entrepreneur can be like, it can be taxing in its own right, right? I mean, you've got a lot of responsibility riding on your shoulders. So where do you find for you personally your inspiration and motivation?
So, a lot of my inspiration comes from nature. I'm big into connecting with nature and being outside and trying to be by the water specifically. Like, that's where I always feel like the most connected and where I get that flow of
Yeah.
energy from. So, oftentimes I'll just be writing by the water because that's where it comes from. I don't know how to describe it because and this doesn't really apply to client work or content writing. This is more like my personal like fiction writing where I get into that flow where it just feels like I'm not even writing it anymore.
Yeah.
Where it's just coming through and it's not even conscious. And that's when I feel like my best stuff comes from because I'll read it back and be like, wow. Did I even write that?
That's awesome.
I felt like divine intervention.
Yeah. Well, there's this, there's this talk about flow, right? Use the word. I mean, it really makes a lot of sense, but it's kind of like what runners experience. They hit that runner's high.
Mm-hmm.
I was interviewing another writer for the podcast, and she was talking about how she would equate what she gets into as like almost the outer body experience when it actually she's like plugged into the source, whatever that is,
Mm-hmm.
and it just flows. She's like, look, I'm just a vessel. I got to get it down on paper, however and how however efficiently I can do it, whether it's through pen or my laptop or even a typewriter. This is you have to go with it, and you don't know how long it'll last, and you just go with the ride, right? And you go with the flow, so to speak.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll just write on my phone.
Yeah.
I have the Word app and I'm just like,
Yep.
got to do
That's
this
great.
right now.
I love it. Well, so what do you think like the next 5 years looks like for your business? Is this something that you plan to just kind of, continue down the solopreneur journey, or do you want to scale it and kind of create the agency kind of approach like a lot of, a lot you're like for those of you that are not seeing the video, but we'll see this on audio, there was this devout head shaking. Absolutely not.
Oh, no.
Oh no. Oh
I
no.
don't want that kind of responsibility. I mean, I think I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and hopefully grow more myself, but I don't ever want to work um over 40 hours a week, or even 40 hours a week, as far
Yeah,
as like this, because I also want my own writing is important, and
sure.
I plan on over the next few years having multiple books published,
I love it.
whether I do it myself or the traditional way. Like I said, I have one finished, um, which is a romance, spicy romance. Extra spicy.
Extra spicy. Well, and do you have a title for this that we could all be like watching for?
Unfinished Business is the current working title.
Nice.
And then I'm also working on a mystery suspense thriller. Um, and that working title is Hidden Obsession. And
Great.
that one may end up being a series.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that pans out. I'm about 60,000 words into it,
Wow.
and I might end up splitting it into two, and we'll see where it goes from there.
So how long is, or how many words is the average nonfiction book? I don't
Well,
even
these
know.
are fiction, so
Oh, sorry, fiction. Yeah, excuse me, fiction.
usually 70 to 80,000 is
Oh,
where
wow.
you
Yeah,
want
so you're
to be.
trucking. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
And then I started a third one. I'm all over the
Because you
place.
don't have enough to do at any point, right? I mean, let's just
And that one's fun because it's written from a male perspective. So I'm finding more freedom in that.
Uh-huh.
It's different. So I'm only about 10,000 words into that one.
Wow.
I just started it a few weeks ago, just randomly. Like, I get like burnt out from one of them, and I'm like, I got this new idea. I'm just gonna see what happens here. I'm even working on a science fiction one that's just barely an idea, but I'm excited about that too.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have many books out before. Yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, so I got to ask you like kind of the basic question. How do you write? I mean, you put in, are you on your laptop, or are you putting it into spiral, notebook? How do you do it? What's the process?
It really just depends. I'll occasionally write in a notebook. I dabble in poetry,
Okay.
so that's often done in a notebook, and then moved because that's easy because it's not long.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm mostly on my laptop and occasionally on my phone. Like I said, like I'll write in the car
Yeah.
on my phone. If we're going on a 3 hour long trip, I can get 1,000 or 2 words written in the car.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Wherever the mood strikes you.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned poetry. I don't know, and I could send you a link to this, but one of the guests I recently had is Deborah Alma. She's written a number of books. She loves poetry. That's kind of her thing, but she is from the UK, and she created this thing called the emergency poet, or, poet pharmacy. And it's kind of a neat thing. When she was the emergency poet, she actually had this old vintage ambulance that she drove around in, and she was actually helping people with dementia initially, and she was connecting with them through words, right, through language in the poems. And then people started saying, well, I could use that, or a family member has had some hard luck, or maybe down in the dumps, and so she would go make house calls with this old vintage ambulance. And that was so popular that she needed to stop. She was going to festivals and doing this thing, and it was a really cool sort of approach. But then she decided she wanted to find a location and actually open up a pharmacy where she has the old medicine bottles and poems written in that. So she does like a consultation, kind of figures out where you are right now, and then she prescribes, poems. It could be her own work, it could be work of other authors. And this whole thing is like just really a unique situation. But one thing that I think you would love her, and really neat person to connect with, because she's really done something quite fantastic with her approach. But she also had a similar approach. She's like, you never know where inspiration is going to strike, but you want to capture those words when they do.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
really cool. It's such
Yeah.
a unique idea.
Yeah, it is. I mean, she and I were kind of joking, but it seems like, something we all need. She really found her sea legs on the idea with COVID, when, people were really uncertain and there was a lot of fear, and, people were lacking authentic human connection because we couldn't, right? So that was where her her business really kind of took off, and now she's a rock star. So it's really pretty cool. And so definitely think you would resonate with that interview for sure. I think you guys would get along. So if you want a connection to her, I could definitely make that happen. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the things that we talk about, obviously, in this podcast is the ripple effect and the concept of just taking chances and creating opportunity when and where you can, whether that's through a tweet, right? That get people's attention, whether that's reaching out to somebody and saying, "Look, I love your writing, I love what you're doing," kind of how you and I connected and engaged, and then trying to explore, hey, how can we support and help one another. So I got one question specific. What does the ripple effect mean to you? I'm really curious as a writer and a content developer. I mean, like what does that phrase in your opinion mean to you?
So whenever I hear that word ripple, I think of like ripples in the water.
Hmm.
And honestly, when I I'm kind of obsessed with being by the water.
Yeah.
But like when I watch the ripples in the water and you see how like in certain areas the water's like rushing and moving faster, and then other areas it's moving slower, and like I always think of people when I'm watching the water, and like how we're all kind of living our own life and doing our own thing and moving in different directions, but it's all connected in a one together.
Yeah.
So everything we're doing is affecting other people. And so even though like I joke around a lot and everything, I also try to be a place where people can come to for a smile or laugh, something to feel good about, maybe a little advice sometimes just like a word of affirmation, or I guess I'm trying to be so much myself in like a public arena
Yeah.
to make other people feel safe to be themselves too.
Oh, I love that.
I'm hoping to be a safe place, and it seems like I might be doing what I'm intending to do.
Well, I think you are without question. I mean, I think you are someone that for sure on Twitter. I just see that you're a difference maker, and you're inspiring and motivating people through your words and the great, often very funny tweets that you put. So we've talked about your Twitter account. How do people find you on Twitter? I want to make sure that everybody goes and follows you.
Oh, like my handle,
Yeah,
or
your handle.
God, I don't even know what it is.
Uh, I'll help you here. It's
See,
Natasha CL7. What's the CL7 stand for?
I think it's just my initials, and then 7 is like my favorite number, like my lucky number.
Oh, nice. I love it. Uh, See, there you go. That's a connection point. I like the number 7 as well. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and if people were interested in learning more about how they might, and work with you directly to help them develop content, give like a just quick high level overview of everything that you do relative to the content, process.
So I do blog writing for people, individuals, or webs or businesses that need to get content out there that
Okay.
connects back to them. Um, Social media posts. I like I said, my main focus is Twitter, but I also have done Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So I'm pretty much open to whatever. I've even done some script writing.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I know. A guy that was like a voiceover narrator was in a competition, and he's like, "Can you just write me like a quick script for this competition?" And I was just like, "Sure."
Sure.
And like he loved it. So it was fun. It was a fun thing to do because it was something I love variety. So I'm pretty much open to most things.
Okay.
Yeah, just contact me and see if I'm interested in whatever project, or like I said, I've done sell sheets for like speaker microphones, thought leadership pieces, like ghostwriting that
Yeah.
book on Section 230.
Section 230 doesn't sound super intriguing. It's probably not as spicy as the spicy romance novel.
No, but it's important. You know
Yeah.
what Section 230 is?
No, I have no clue.
See, that's why it's important.
Yeah.
It's the law that allows platforms like Twitter, YouTube, Facebook,
Oh,
Instagram, etc., to not be held liable for content that users post on their sites.
yeah.
So it's the reason we have free speech on social media.
Yeah.
And right now, it's kind of under
Under
people are
fire.
to
Yeah.
axe it and hold
Yeah.
those companies liable, which would mean more moderation. Not
Yeah.
if we can even post at all.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. I mean, it does sound like a really fascinating topic and right up your alley. I can see why he engaged with you to do it because I would think you would have plenty to say about it for sure.
Oh, I have lots to say.
I
There
love
are
it.
a lot of things to say. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I got that vibe from you. No problem. Absolutely. Well, so if people were interested in working with you, give them your website address so that we make sure that we put it out there for everybody.
It's just natashalink.com.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, Natasha, this has been, so much fun. I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this. I mean, I'd like our audience to make sure that you go to natashalink.com, check out what she's doing professionally, and then find her on Twitter. Like I said, her handle is Natasha CL7 on Twitter, and she's on Instagram. I don't have the Instagram pulled up right this second, but I'm sure you can find her under Natasha Link on Instagram. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. She's awesome to follow. I am so grateful that we connected, and I'm really, really excited to kind of see where you go with these books and what I can do to help and contribute in any way possible. I think you're a rock star, and I'm so grateful that we're friends. So
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out to me at any point.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, guys, we'll be back again with another episode of the Ripple Effect podcast. But until then, Natasha, ripple on. I was going to say LinkedIn.
Well,
Natasha, ripple
yeah.
on. Yeah, ripple on.